Have you ever felt this? You're not reckless with money, you're not buying luxury cars, you're not shopping every single day, and yet somehow your money still disappears. Not in one big dramatic mistake, but quietly, slowly, in ways that are almost impossible to notice. A meal out because today was exhausting. A subscription you forgot to cancel. A small expense that doesn't feel like much, but shows up every single month. And then you check your bank account at the end of the month and think, wait, I worked all month. Where did it go? That's the scary part. Not that you're broke, but that you don't fully understand what's happening to your money. And if you're living in 2026, this feeling isn't unusual. It's almost the default. Prices are higher, life is more complex, and your money is being pulled in 10 different directions at the same time. But here's where I need you to pause for a second. Because your problem is not that you're bad with money, you're not smart enough, or you just don't have a financial mindset. The real problem is this: you don't have small enough financial habits to survive in a world that's this loud. Most people think financial literacy means reading thick books, learning complicated terms, understanding markets, or picking investments. But the people who actually control their money best, the calm ones, the steady ones, aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who built a simple system of tiny habits, done consistently, without drama, without burnout. No daily motivation required, no extreme discipline, just good design. This video is not for people who want to get rich fast. It's for people who feel constantly behind, are tired of blaming themselves every month, and want to understand money without panic or guilt. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 9 tiny habits. Most of them take less than 5 minutes per week, but if you stick with them, they will permanently change how you see money. Not by scaring you, but by making you aware. And before we get into the first habit, there's one thing you need to understand. You don't need to do all 9 at once. You just need to start at the right place. And that place is something almost nobody ever looks at. Before we talk about saving rates, investing strategies, or building wealth long-term, we need to do something much less exciting. We need to stop the bleeding. Because if money is leaking quietly every month, no amount of optimization is going to matter. And that's why the first 3 habits aren't about growth. They're about clarity. They slow things down just enough for you to regain control. Habit 1. Calculate the true cost of your time. This is the habit that changes everything. Not because it's complicated, but because almost nobody has ever done it honestly. Most people think they know their hourly rate. They take their salary and divide it by 40 hours a week. That number is a lie. A convenient one, but still a lie. Your real hourly rate is what you earn after taxes, divided by the actual hours your job consumes. That includes commuting, unpaid overtime, time spent getting ready, mental energy you can't use elsewhere. Let's say you make $60,000 a year. After taxes, maybe you take home $47,000. You work 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week. That's 2,000 hours. But then you add commuting, maybe an hour a day. Now you're at 2,250 hours. $47,000 divided by 2,250 hours comes out to about $20.88 per hour. That's your real number. And once you know it, spending stops feeling abstract. That $200 dinner, that's not $200, that's 9 or 10 hours of your life. A $40,000 car, that's roughly a full year of work. This isn't meant to make you feel guilty, it's meant to give your brain a unit it actually understands. Time is finite. Money is replaceable. People who are financially literate aren't obsessed with saving, they're obsessed with what their time is buying them. Once you calculate this number, keep it somewhere visible, because every habit after this one gets easier. Habit 2. Automate your savings before you can spend it. Here's something uncomfortable but freeing. If saving relies on willpower, it will eventually fail. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. The most effective savers don't decide to save every month. They remove the decision entirely. The moment money hits their account, a percentage disappears automatically into savings or investments before their brain can negotiate with it. This takes about 10 minutes to set up once. You can do it through payroll or through automatic bank transfers. The structure is simple. Income hits your checking account. Bills and spending come out as usual. A fixed percentage moves automatically towards your future. Start with 10% of your take-home pay. Asterisk, asterisk if you can. If you can push it to 15% or 20% over time, even better. But the percentage matters less than the automation, because automation does something powerful psychologically. You don't feel like you're giving something up. You build your life around what's left. And that's how saving becomes sustainable instead of painful. Habit 3. The monthly financial check-in. This is where awareness turns into control. Once a month, on the same day, you sit down for 15 minutes. Not to judge yourself, not to punish yourself, just to look. You review the previous month and categorize spending into 3 buckets: Needs, housing, food, utilities, transportation, insurance. Wants, entertainment, shopping, dining out. Savings, everything moving toward future goals. A common guideline is the 50-30-20 framework. But here's the important part. This is not a test you pass or fail. It's a diagnostic. Maybe your needs are 58%. Maybe savings drop to 15%. That doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It means your environment is expensive. And once you see that clearly, you can make targeted adjustments. Not dramatic cuts, small negotiations. Internet, phone plans, insurance, utilities. A $10 monthly reduction might not feel exciting, but stack a few of those together and you're buying yourself margin. And margin is what lets everything else work. These first 3 habits don't make you rich. They do something more important. They make your money visible. They turn chaos into data. They turn stress into decisions. And once you can see what's actually happening, the next habits become obvious. Because now you're no longer reacting, you're choosing. In the next section, we're going to talk about the habits that change how you evaluate spending altogether, by separating what builds wealth from what quietly drains it. That's where real momentum starts. Habit 4. Learn to see assets and liabilities clearly. Every dollar you spend does one of 2 things. It either puts money into your life over time or pulls money out of your life over time. That's it. Everything fits somewhere on that spectrum. A car is the easiest example of a liability. It costs you insurance, fuel, maintenance, and it loses value almost every year. That doesn't mean cars are bad. It means they have a job, and that job is to consume cash. An asset does the opposite. It creates income, appreciation, or both. Rental property, dividend-paying investments, skills that raise your earning power. The habit here is simple but powerful. Before any major purchase, ask one question. Does this put money into my life over time, or does it take money out? If it takes money out, that's not a failure. It just means it needs to fit inside your plan. What changes everything is awareness. Once you see things clearly, spending stops being emotional. It becomes intentional. And intentional spending feels completely different. Habit 5. Track your net worth quarterly, not obsessively. Most people either never track their net worth, or they track it so often that it messes with their head. Neither works. Net worth is simply everything you own minus everything you owe. Cash, investments, property, minus debts and obligations. Tracking this gives you one huge advantage: perspective. But here's the mistake people make. If a big chunk of your net worth is invested, checking it every month, or worse, every week, turns into emotional whiplash. Markets go down 10% and suddenly you feel like you're failing. You're not. You're just watching noise. That's why quarterly tracking works so well. It's frequent enough to show progress, infrequent enough to filter out volatility. Once every 3 months, update assets, update liabilities. Record the number, move on. No judgment. Over time, the trend tells the story, and trends are what matter. Habit 6. Negotiate one bill every quarter. This habit sounds small, almost silly, but it's one of the highest return actions you can take. Once per quarter, you make one phone call. That's it. Pick a bill that feels slightly too high. Internet, phone, insurance, subscriptions. Then you say something like, "I've been a customer for a while, but this bill is outside my budget. I'm seeing similar options for less. Is there anything you can do?" You don't threaten to cancel immediately. You don't get aggressive. And if the answer is no, you try again later or ask for retention. Why does this work? Because it's cheaper for companies to keep you than replace you. Even a $10 or $15 monthly reduction compounds. That's $120 to $180 per year from a single conversation. Stack a few of those, and you've created margin without sacrifice. And margin is leverage. These 3 habits do something subtle but powerful. They change how you evaluate money. You stop reacting emotionally. You stop guessing. You start seeing patterns. And once you see patterns, you can start building. Because now, instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" you're asking, "What is this doing to my future?" In the next section, we're going to talk about habits that actually expand your earning and investing power without complexity. This is where things stop feeling defensive and start feeling intentional. Habit 7. Invest in the one asset you can't lose. This is where most people underestimate themselves. Your most valuable financial asset is not your portfolio. It's not real estate. It's not even your savings. It's you. Over a lifetime, most people will earn somewhere between $2 and $3 million. That means even a small increase in your earning power compounds massively. A 10% increase in income over your career can easily translate into hundreds of thousands of dollars. And unlike markets, skills don't crash overnight. They move with you, from job to job, from industry to industry. This doesn't mean you should buy every course you see online. Sometimes learning for free makes sense, but if time is scarce and structure helps you apply faster, paying to shortcut the learning curve isn't wasteful, it's leverage. Financially literate people don't see education as an expense, they see it as infrastructure. Habit 8. Start investing early, even if it's small. This is where people freeze. They think investing only counts if it's a lot. It doesn't. What matters most is time, not intensity. There's a well-known example that shows this perfectly. One person invests consistently early, then stops. Another waits years, then invests much more aggressively later. Even though the late starter contributes more money overall, the early starter often ends up with more, simply because their money had more time to compound. That's the quiet power of time. And if you didn't start early, here's the truth most people need to hear. Yes, starting at 18 would have been ideal, but the second best time is now. Even $50 or $100 a month matters, not because of the amount, but because it starts the process. Keep it boring. Low-cost index funds. Buy, hold. Let time do the heavy lifting. You don't need excitement, you need consistency. Habit 9. Celebrate progress so you don't quit. This habit feels soft. It isn't. If you never acknowledge progress, your brain assumes nothing is happening, and when nothing feels like it's happening, you quit. That's human. So you need milestones. Not extravagant rewards, intentional ones. The first $1,000 saved, a month where you hit your savings target, paying off a debt, staying consistent for 6 months. Celebrate in a way that feels meaningful but controlled, because progress without recognition feels like punishment. And financial literacy is a long game. You don't grind a marathon without checkpoints. Closing. The real point of all this. Here's the truth about money in 2026. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to optimize everything. You don't need to know more than everyone else. You need a system that works when you're tired, busy, and human. These 9 habits aren't impressive on their own, but together they do something powerful. They turn chaos into clarity, stress into structure, and money into a tool instead of a source of anxiety. You don't have to do all 9 this week. Pick one. Start small, because momentum doesn't come from dramatic changes. It comes from tiny habits done consistently over time. And if you can do that, you won't just feel better about money, you'll finally feel like it's working with you, not against you.